Hey, good morning, guys. My name is George Alexopoulos. I am an illustrator. I work on comics. I work on indie video games. I've done all kinds of stuff. My latest project is a comic book named Mary Sue. The link is in the description. And I'll talk about that more at the end of the video, but today I thought I would do something I don't often do on my channel, but I should do more, which is not exactly a tutorial, but it's more like an examination of how I paint and my process. Earlier this weekend, I think on Friday night or Saturday, I painted these just as an exercise. And some people were asking me about how I did it and what my process is like. Because I sometimes talk about what it's like, how I paint from start to finish. And I think I have an unusual, I'm not sure how they teach it in schools these days. My approach is actually not to paint in color first. And I'll explain why in a little bit. So let's say we have these marbles here that I painted, and they're actually painted in grayscale first. Yeah, I go through a conversion process where you take an image like this, and then I add splashes of color, and there are multiple ways to do this. First thing that I'm going to do to explain to explain the process is that, all right, so say I start with a monochromatic image here in grayscale. The reasoning for this is that I only have enough, maybe I'm not smart or something. My brain only has enough RAM to deal with what is called brightness. And that is basically gray, black and white, that sort of thing. And depending on how you approach your paintings, just imagine like if you're doing a pencil drawing, something like that. It's also been known as values. Brightness in Photoshop, not luminosity, but that's another conversation. So I paint in grayscale, which is this slider right here. I don't know if anyone's familiar with an HSB slider. A lot of people, I think, use RGB, which basically is a way of calculating color. Each of these values, red, green, and blue, has 255 values. Ranging from 0 to 255, and if you combine them, you can get pretty much any color. But I don't use those when I paint, and the reason is that if you think of dimensions of color, there's 3 different dimensions that you can calculate aside from RGB. There's brightness, which again is black and white, and then there's saturation, which I'll explain a little bit, and hue, which is the actual color, or chroma in Greek. So I hit the button to bring up the color picker here. And so if you're only working in black and white in brightness, you're only going up and down along the left side of this window here. There's no color, there's no hue, and there's no saturation to these colors. It's only gray. So that's why I'm only thinking about this one slider right here. I'm not thinking about saturation or hue at all. So that makes for, let's say, the bandwidth of a person's brain. I don't have a lot of bandwidth, I guess, so I can't think in color just yet. I know what colors I ultimately want sometimes, but I think because of my background as a black and white artist, I used to use a lot of pencil and ink. It just is more natural to me to paint in black and white. So here's a painting of Rosemary from the comic that I mentioned, Mary Sue. I started this painting in black and white, so I'll cheat and go like this, Control U, turn off all the saturation. That's what the image looked like, roughly, when I was finished with it. Not exactly, I cheated, but it kind of looked like this, and then I added splashes of color, and then I ended up with this. But there are some tricks to get this kind of saturation right here, because a lot of the colors I choose depend on this color picker right here. You can get this particular one called Cooleros, which I love. I think it's like 15 bucks. You can buy it as an add-on, and I highly recommend it. I love it. And but yeah, when you eyedrop these colors, what I'm looking for as a colorist, personally, my taste, is that I love highly saturated, bright colors. I don't like colors that are in this direction here on the color wheel. when you convert from black and white to color, I think you end up with a lot of darkened, washed out colors that have a lot of gray in them, and they lose a lot of their luminosity and saturation. So let's say we start with a black and white image. We'll get back to this in a minute. Before I do, actually, I wanted to do a quick little demonstration of what it's like to start from scratch and what it looks like to have a black and white image that is then converted into color, and what kind of problems you're going to run into. So it needs to go from black to white, almost exactly white, almost exactly black. All right. So right now the image is let's say this is a drawing here. This is 100% black, and here is 0% black. And again, we're using the HSB sliders to measure these values. And here, of course, you're going to have like 99 to 1% black. And the way that Photoshop works, we're going to be using something called blending modes. So we need to colorize this. Let's say this is our beautiful finished painting, Mona Lisa or whatever, and we have it in gray tones, and we want to convert it to color. One way that you could do that is to, we're not using different layers yet, take the original layer that you worked on, hit Control-U for hue and saturation adjustments, and then click Colorize. That's one way to do it. Now, the problem with these colors is that you can only do that to like sections of the image or the whole image itself. But either way, maybe this isn't the exact red that you were looking for. Or maybe you want to use multiple colors. So let's say I'm going to do this, and then I can play with the sliders, right? I'm going to get all kinds of different saturations, different hues, different darknesses maybe. And you can even go further and play with the levels, Control-L, and then say, no, I would like more gray, or I'd like more black, or, you know, I'd like no white at all, or I'd want no black at all. You can play with the levels. I always use that slider all the time. But what you're going to end up with is kind of an imprecise target of maybe what you were looking for. This can work. So this is the easiest way to do it, colorize stuff. But the way that I've been doing it, because I like to customize all of my colors and be able to control all of the HSB values of basically every pixel on the entire canvas, what I would do is I make a new layer, and then you hit multiply as a blending mode and say, I want it to be yellow. All right. The downside to this now is that what multiply does is it only interprets gray pixels and then multiplies them with the color you selected. So right now that's the color that we just chose. Let's say we want a brighter color. You get a nice lemon yellow, which when you click it turns into this, or maybe it's a blue that I want. See? And then you can also do things like fooling around with different colors. Let's say I want a splash of red in there. Maybe some green. But you see how the multiply layer is interpreting the dark pixels underneath, which is a dark gray. And then you can find exactly on the color wheel what that green is, if you see where my cursor is. This red here, peach, is up here, but when you select it with the eyedropper, all of a sudden it starts losing brightness. And I don't like that, because I want this color, let's say. I have selected this color, but I'm telling the multiply layer, these are the actual colors you're laying down. So if you only use a multiply layer, you will never get this color by slapping it on top of gray. So I'll do this to color an image, and then underneath it, I'll take a copy of that, and then I'll select color. And now you get something closer to what you were maybe initially looking for. Something a little brighter. And then you can do things like this, lower the opacity, or you can select hard light or soft light, and you can double up on the soft light. And now maybe you're able to control what your ultimate colors are going to look like. Now, I do something that I don't recommend. I flatten when I'm done. I flatten stuff, and then I'll do things like select a screen blending mode, then say I want this green to be really bright, so that'll pick a nice bright green, and then do this, and then I'll select that color or something like that. Maybe I want a light over there, or I want a nice bright blue light over here. And then the great thing is you can hit Control U and start changing the lights around, and that's the screen mode as well. So the two blending modes that I've been playing with is color, multiply, and screen. So I'm going to do a demonstration now and fast forward and show you guys what that looks like. And here, something worth mentioning is that I don't have a plan right now. This is kind of what I do as a warm-up drawing sometimes, or if I'm just trying to kill some time, something like that. I don't have a plan right now. I'm just kind of moving the cursor around and seeing what kind of shapes come out. And I guess this is starting to look like the top of a hurricane or a tunnel or a black hole kind of thing. The only thing I'm thinking about right now is the brightness. I'm only going black, white, gray, that sort of thing. So my shortcuts for that is D, and I hit X to swap. That's it. I'm only thinking about two colors. And I'm trying to do something right now what I'm trying to do is establish a light source and shadows. So right now it looks like there's shadows over here. So that would mean a light source might be coming from this direction right here. So that's something I'm going to be thinking about as I'm painting. It looks like a tunnel of cloud-ish. Clouds are a lot of fun to draw, by the way. All right, so that's what I'm thinking about. There's a shadow over here for some reason, and there's lightness over here, I guess, to make the 3D look. All right, at this stage, I would say a shape has started to emerge, I guess. This could be, I guess it looks like a convex. It's like it's coming towards us right here, like a volcano or something, and we're looking into the tunnel this way over here, something like that maybe. One of the tricks that I think about at this stage is that you can also shade things using a multiply layer. So I'm gonna make a new multiply layer right here, nothing. And that's the painting right there. The cool thing about multiply is that you can create a shadow. Let's say I want that area to be shadowed right there. And that's like, oh no, that's too aggressive. I'd like to cancel that and make it kind of disappear as if I'm putting a layer mask down. What you could do is select white and then do something like that, or you could put down a white gradient and make your shadow that you just put down disappear. And likewise, you can do the same with a screen layer. It's like, oh, I'd like to have a highlight right there, but oh no, that's not in the right spot, so I'm going to use a black to cancel it, because screen, the blending mode, does not interpret, it interprets black as cancel, and it only looks at light. So that's kind of cool, I guess. And then maybe I'll lower the shadow a little bit. Alrighty, so at this stage, let's say the black and whites are, they have come together enough that I can sort of see the form of whatever this is. It's like a weird, it's not a sphere exactly. I don't know, it's kind of cool though, because I'm kind of having to interpret it as I'm painting it, and I still don't quite know what this is. I know that it's cool though. So all right, it's a black and white layer right now. I have the top layer is just this sphere here to preserve that it's a circle, and underneath is this, whatever this shape is, and that also looks kind of cool actually. I think I prefer this, whatever this is. So I'm going to delete that layer. And again, like that's the joy of painting, you might say, is I have no idea what this is, but it looks cool. So again, at this stage, you could hit this and colorize and then play with these. And, oh, you know, whatever, it's a thing, and I don't know. But all right, so you do this, and then you kind of have to commit to a single color. That's a way to do it. I prefer a little more control, including pressure control. So I'm going to create a new layer. And again, there's nothing on it, but I'm going to set it to multiply. And I'm going to start putting down color and experimenting. And right now I'm not worried about saturation. I'm only thinking about hue, aka chroma. And I'm not worried about brightness at all, because multiply, the way that we're using multiply right now is not going to be affected by that. So I'm going to step away from the mic for a second and just play with some colors, and you can watch me as I don't know what this is still. I'm still figuring it out, but I kind of see a shape here. So I don't know if I'm approaching this in a spaceship, right? Like it looks like that's the deepest area of whatever I'm approaching. And I just want to lighten that a little bit on the black and white layer. I'm going to do that with the color turned on. So see what happens over there? You can see inside that spiral thing, whatever that is, and that's pretty cool. So you can now play with both of these layers at the same time, and it will affect what the ultimate color looks like. By themselves, what these colors look like, I'll show you, is that. Isn't that interesting? We have this image, and then when you slap a multiply layer, when you slap this on, the white there, the white is only there to show you what it looks like, but because it has alpha pixels over there, that's what you end up with. And then let's say I'm going to hit Control U, start playing around with colors and saturations, and I'm going to use the color slider to say, all right, let's see what happens when I do this. I like the red here. Let's see. A little too earthish. You can make it more saturated if you like. And I'm going to marry these colors together with the white. And now I can start playing around with things like saturation. I like both of those. So let's say that's boring, 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 boring. All right, let's do this. Whatever this is, this looks cool. Let's run with this. So now I'm going to add more splashes of color, and I'll be with you guys again when I'm satisfied with how it looks, and then we'll start brightening it up. Because right now, the grays are down here. See where the cursor is here? When I select, they're kind of here, which is muddy. This is a grayish, washed out color, and I think the most fun is up here. That's the stuff that stands out. So I'll be back in a little bit. All right, so now I think I've put down enough color that I think a hint of something has emerged. And what I'm going to now do is create another layer. Underneath, called color. And what color is going to do, you see how it's kind of washed out over there? It's gray. I don't like gray, it's boring. So now we're going to add some color. And what it's doing is the color layer is now affecting, let's say you got a gray here, which is over here on the color wheel. Now we resample it, and it turns into this. How and why is magic. I don't understand it. But that also looks cool. Darn. I'm kind of convincing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So now, using these three modes only. Well, actually, I'll add on top of that a screen. And let's say I want to add a highlight of this cool pink color. Wow, that brings it to life. Makes it look more alive. Interesting. Yeah, so I'm gonna just start experimenting with these blending modes here. And when I'm satisfied, I will merge them all down. That's like the equivalent of hitting save in a RPG or something. And yeah, I'll show you guys the what all the layers look like when it's done. And we'll see what happens. Alright, so whatever's going on here, these layers now is, for my brain, too much to think about. So I'm going to flatten everything. I'm going to show you one more time what each of these layers looks like individually. You got the black and white layer, a little bit splash of color underneath, multiply, screen, right? Well, I can always come back and brighten it up later. But let's say now I've been able to change all these colors around if I wanted to. And what I'm going to do now is flatten everything and paint like normally. I can now select, because everything that's going to be in place is in place. I'm going to select these colors now with my regular pencil tool and just start slapping them down, and it's a flat image and we'll see what emerges from it. These colors are very bad. We want this to be color, not gray. That's a washed out color. That's boring. So I'm going to work now. You can watch my process, I guess, is I'm going to just start selecting bright colors and putting them down. Well, I'm going to stop here, I think, and I got these arms upside down. Ugh. I'm gonna be honest, I still don't know what exactly I made, but it's like a planet or something, and it looks cool. So, whatever, there it is. I might continue playing with it a little more. What if there's like a city here? That's actually really cool. It could be like a Blade Runner-ish city. Oh, that's really neat, actually. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add like lights and stuff. All right, so I'm gonna do lots of dots and whatever, and I will post an image of the final painting after I'm finished. I don't think there's much more to the process that I'm gonna that's worth showing in terms of like the stop motion or something like that. So all I'll say is thank you guys so much for watching up to this point, and check out Mary Sue, which whatever this planet is, I will eventually feature it in the story. This is basically how I'm doing all my planets and stuff. Not all of them, but I'm just kind of making colors and shapes, and her universe is just, it's basically that. It's an improvised kind of almost randomly, what do you call it, procedurally generated universe or something like that. Not exactly, but that's kind of part of the fun, I think. Anyway, yeah, check out Mary Sue. Thank you guys for watching so far. I've got a whole bunch of interviews coming up this week, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you want to see more of these, and I will see what I can do. Thanks so much.